Hello, Asylum. Tonight's dreadful tale comes to us from Thomas Diaz. It's called Sounds in the Night. It was the weirdest sound I had ever heard. I was sleeping with my covers tucked up around my ears when the noise started. Outside my window there was a hum. It was like the sound of a one-chord heavy bass instrument, and it kept rumbling on and on for far too long. The walls rattled with it, and the contents of my room vibrated, surrounding the ongoing bass hum with the chatter of things knocking together. My toys, books, and the glass of water I kept on my end table, all of them bounced gently. Behind all of that, I could hear an odd, regular thump, almost the same sound I thought a helicopter's rotor would make, and the sound of a strong wind battering at my window. I was still half asleep, and it felt unreal to me, like I was floating in all that noise. I just lay there listening, wondering if I was dreaming. I was so tired. I'd gone to bed late. The door to the hen house had broken, and I'd had to seal it with chicken wire.
Son of a bitch!
I heard Daddy yell. He sounded real mad too, maddest I'd ever heard him. Then the shotgun went off. That did it. My eyes flew open wide. If there was anything that could get me out of bed, that was it. Not even a second later, I was up searching for my britches. If I was going to be outside, I didn't want to be running about in my nightgown. I had them around my knees when Jace, my older brother, came rushing into my room. He carried the other shotgun in his arms. "Baby Jay, you asleep?" he asked. "Jace, what in the Sam hell's going on? What time is it?"
I don't know, but I'm scared.
"They're dead, Baby Jay. All of them. Dead." I paused in the middle of belting my britches around my waist. "Dead? What are you talking about? Who's dead?"
The cattle. They're... I don't know how to describe it. Melted?
Melted? What?
Baby Jay, it's bad.
When Daddy heard that noise outside, he got me out of bed and told me to check on them cattle. And when I got out there are these
piles of blood and pink tissue sitting outside in the field where the cows should have been. You could see the bones sticking out.
What are you talking about?
You know what? Never mind that. Come on, let's get your shoes on.
Jace grabbed my arm, ushering me to the living room.
Something's here, and I don't know what.
"But what about Daddy?" I asked him, unable to keep the fear out of my voice.
All I know is that Daddy would want us safe. That's it.
Behind us there was a wet splatter. Both of us froze in unison. Slowly we turned around to see a mulch of thick red goo covering the window. It looked like a watermelon had exploded all over it, only instead of seeds, there were flakes of something pale in the pulp. Was that bone? Then it hit me. "Daddy!" I whined the word. Jace pulled my arm.
"We're leaving."
Panic surged in my chest. "But what about Daddy? How are you not?"
"'Cause I know that's not him. I know Daddy. He's not stupid enough to get blown up or whatever. Now move."
I wasn't so sure, but I pushed the doubts away, held on to my faith. Slowly we crept through the dark living room, heading to the door which led to the garage. Our windows were large, taking up the top half of the walls, and I started anxiously into the darkness outside.
"Just keep it together for 20 minutes, that's all I'm asking. We'll take the truck and head into town. Already got the keys in my pocket," said Jace. The air was electric. That deep bass hum had returned, going lower in tone. There was more rattling as stuff in the living room picked up the vibration. Flickers of light surrounded us in brief intervals, coming in from outside the windows. It was like a lightning storm, but there was no thunder. Something caught my eye. A shadow moved past outside. It paused, backlit by the flashing. There was a triangle of red lights embedded in what looked like the head, right where I imagined its face should be. Two were fixed like eyes on either side. The third was centered just above, in the middle of what normally would be the forehead. It cocked its head, making this odd clicking sound. Jace and I stiffened. My heart boomed in my chest. My forehead was damp with sweat. I wanted to wipe at it, but I was stuck, frozen in fear. My dry throat scraped as I swallowed. Jace raised the shotgun, trained it on the figure. Nobody moved. Jace breathed slowly in and out, the air hissing between his teeth.
Finally, the hum outside, whatever it was, moved at what felt like a snail's pace, headed to the front door. Jace followed it with the aim of his shotgun. He moved his finger to the trigger, pulled just a little bit. Slowly, I put my hand on the barrel. He glared down at me. I shook my head and raised my hand, showing him one finger at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I pointed all 5 fingers at the window. There could be more is what I was trying to tell him. His jaw tightened, then he mouthed a curse word that started with an F. Releasing the trigger, he raised a finger to his lips. Carefully, he backed up. I moved with him, tippy-toeing as we backpedaled toward the door that led to the backyard. The truck was parked on the lawn. The front door burst into splinters and sawdust. "Go!" he yelled, pulling the trigger. It was so loud it sounded like a bomb had gone off in the room. I ran. Something, I'm not sure what, roared. Sounded like metal warping and bending. I ducked behind the counter. A flash, sounding like a sharp crack of a whip, pierced the air, briefly lighting up the room. I heard a wet splattering sound as Jace was sent hurling back. He bounced off the wall, his face and half his body covered in blood. But then I saw the torn stub that was left of his arm, the gush of red sweeping out of it. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Breathing hard, he yelled, "I said run, goddammit!" I did as I was told and launched myself at the back door. Another gunshot blast went off. One of the living room windows exploded and bits of glass showered behind me as I ran, my mouth letting out an involuntary scream. That flash went off again with a loud snap. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard a sickening crunch as if someone had split open a watermelon with a crowbar. I didn't look back to see what happened. I kept running toward the cellar door, hurled it open and threw myself inside. Slamming the door shut, I waited. Since Jace had the keys in his pocket, I couldn't take the truck. Didn't know how to drive it anyway. I wanted to fold up and cry, but not yet. I couldn't, so I held it in. The glass from another window exploded and something landed with a heavy thump like a 1,000-pound boulder had been dropped. One heavy thump after another moved in my direction. Each one rattled the hinges of the door. Tears swam in my eyes. I'd never been so scared in my life. For the life of me, I couldn't stop panting. Hands shaking, I covered my mouth, trying to stop myself from making these noises. I moved to peek out of the scene between the 2 doors to see if it was coming. At first, there was nothing there. My hands stayed clasped to my mouth and they scraped against the rough wood of the door as I pressed myself against it. My breath fluttered warm and damp in my palms. Each step sounding like a heavy mechanical thump moved closer. It stopped just outside the door. I waited, unable to move. The red glare of its eyes leaked through the crack I was staring through. It was too close. We were only separated by the door. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. If I did, I knew I'd be dead. I held my breath. A soft whine escaped my lips. And then there was a new sound rising under the clicking. Police sirens echoing in the distance. The thing paused, stiffly turning back. The sirens continued on, screaming louder and louder, making their way toward us. It sounded like they were coming up our driveway. I wasn't sure who had called them, and I didn't care. The thing darted back toward the commotion, moving in a blur. With a roar sound, the next flash lit everything, fire blossoming up into the sky. Another explosion followed, throwing up a mushroom cloud of black smoke. Men shouted, gunshots and other heavy fire rang out. It went on, and I clapped my hands uselessly to my ears, but I could feel the noise inside me, shaking my bones. Then a deafening boom silenced all the rest. The shockwave of it blew the 2 double doors inwards, throwing me off my feet. I landed on the ground, hitting my head against the leg of Daddy's work table. My vision flashed white. Darkness fell. Sometime later, I woke up to a heavy headache. I rubbed the back of my head. It stung and my hair was coated in something wet. When I brought my fingers back to my face, I saw blood. Outside, everything was eerily calm. There was no clicking, no heavy bass, no gunshots. Matter of fact, all I could hear was a faint whining sound that reminded me of when you bring a live microphone close to a speaker. Not sure what else to do, I stumbled barefoot out to a bright and sunny morning. From the driveway, I saw the carnage. Several cars lay destroyed, their black skeletal remains still burning. Fire trucks and ambulances were there too, parked on the lawn, and other cars, including those long black cars you see them government folk driving. Firefighters, SWAT, and men in business suits roamed the area. The firefighters were busy at work hosing down the cars. One of the suits spoke into his wrist and pointed a finger in my direction. Behind me, I felt someone approach. A shadow stretched out on the ground at my feet. I turned back to see a figure in a white hazmat suit. I hadn't noticed until now, but there were more dressed like that heading toward my house. Each one held a device in their hands, the kind they check for radiation. The one who had approached me, a lady I think, with a gentle touch took my hand and led me into a makeshift white tent. She sat me on a stool and brought a pen light to my eye. When my hearing finally returned, everything was different and empty and sad. There were no cows mooing, no chicken clucking in the distance. Gone was Daddy's belly laugh and Jace's foul-mouthed cussing. I knew in my heart I'd never hear them again. All that was replaced with radio chatter and about a dozen people I didn't know talking around me. Keyboards clicked, cell phones vibrated. All of these new sounds made me bring my hands to my ears, trying to block them out. Deep in my heart, I knew the truth. I was all alone, and all I could do was cry. My dear Asylum, a word of caution. If you ever hear clicks and thunks, don't go exploring where it came from. Hop in your vehicle as fast as you can and just drive away. If you would like more by Thomas Diaz, the link will be in the description. And if you have a tale that you like narrated by me, you can reach me at justmygemini@gmail.com. Until next Friday, good night. And don't let the monster under the bed bite.